how good the writing is and how
I've had this idea of a table or a piece of furniture, something that has these random size slats along the side. Once I decided to build a coffee table, I thought about how to make it more functional. And so I came up with a design that goes from coffee table into a full twin-size bed. It's a great option for overnight guests or just to open up and to lay down while you're watching TV. Keep watching to see how it works. This video is sponsored by my friends at the Home Depot. For the main body of the table, I knew I wanted a painted surface, so I decided to use MDF or medium density fiberboard as opposed to plywood. Once it's painted or finished, it's perfectly safe, but cutting or drilling MDF releases some pretty nasty chemicals, so make sure to wear a respirator. I first started by cutting my 3/4 inch MDF into the size of the project panels that I'm going to need. To join the panels together, I decided to use pocket holes and screws. I drilled 3/4 inch pocket holes about every 6 to 8 inches along all the side and face pieces. The building plans for this project are available for free at buildsomething.com. Check the description box for a direct link. Next, on the bottom panel, I marked where the sides and faces were going to be attached. I applied a healthy amount of wood glue and then started with my first side piece. To secure it in place, I used 1 1/4 inch coarse thread pocket hole screws. I then moved on, starting to glue and attach the next side. This would be a great time to let me know what you think about this video. Give it a thumbs up and drop a comment down below. At the intersecting butt joints, I pre-drilled and drove 3-inch screws, connecting the face of one board into the end of the other. MDF tends to split when you're drilling into end grain, so I have a little trick where I back the screw back and forth, and it helps pre-drill the hole a little bit bigger and avoid splitting. Once the lower sides and face panel were in place, I positioned the top panel. I marked the inside dimensions of the sides to determine where the upper sides would sit inside the box. I transferred those dimensions to the top side of the panel and then started to glue and attach my side pieces. So I just realized that I did something stupid with my design. I moved the pocket holes inside because I didn't want them to show from the outside, but I realized on the outside they would have been covered. Oh well. You'll see what I mean about the pocket hole placement in just a little bit. In the meantime, I continued to attach the sides and face using more 1 1/4 inch screws. I then turned my attention to the decorative pieces on the outside, which I'm calling the veneer. I picked up a quarter sheet of both 1/2 inch and 1/4 inch MDF. I used my circular saw to cut lots of random widths of both the 1/4 inch, the 1/2 inch, as well as the leftover 3/4 inch MDF. I then moved over to my miter saw and cut them all into 8 1/4 inch lengths. Off camera, I flipped the upper part of the box and dropped it into place. I then began by attaching all the veneer pieces, and there were a lot of them. I didn't count, but I'm guessing over 100, maybe 150. I would periodically use a square just to make sure that I wasn't getting too out of line. Even though there were so many pieces to place, it actually went really quickly. I just applied a little bit of glue and then used a 23 gauge brad nailer to hold them in place. Once all the veneer pieces were attached, I smoothed down all the sharp edges using my new DeWalt Random Orbital cordless sander. The benefit of having a cordless sander is obvious. You don't have a cord that you have to chase around the workbench. But what I love particularly about this DeWalt model is the brake. That means as soon as I switch it off, the pad stops spinning instantly. Next, I began working on the poplar base. So I made a huge mistake with the design of this one too. I cut all the pieces for my leg blanks to length. What I should have done is cut longer sections and then glued them up together, cutting them afterward. I made each of the legs out of 3 pieces of 1x3 stock glued or laminated together. Once the legs were glued up and fully dried, I ran them through a couple of quick passes on my planer just to help smooth out the sides a little bit. The last step in making the legs was to cut off the rough ends to the exact dimension of 8 1/4 inch. Next, I moved on to the 3/4 inch double stretchers. I used off-the-shelf poplar 3/4 inch square dowel and cut them to length. Before I could assemble the base, I had to give everything a nice sanding. I get a lot of questions from you guys about the different tools that I use. For the past year, I've been working with the Home Depot as part of their prospective tool review program. As part of the program, they've sent me a couple of cool tools, like the cordless sander that I've been using, as well as my 16-gallon new rigid shop vac. I got the chance to test them out, and I've been really impressed. For example, the onboard storage and the locking connections for the attachments are game changers. So much better than my old shop vacs. After making a huge mess sanding, I was able to quickly clean it up before I started to assemble the base. I decided to use dowels to join the stretchers to the table legs. I marked the location of where the stretchers would connect and then drilled 3/8 inch holes. I drilled corresponding holes on the ends of the stretchers carefully. I then applied a healthy amount of glue to all the connecting surfaces and aligned the stretchers in place where they would go on the legs. I only have a couple of long clamps, so I could only clamp pairs of legs together at a time. Once I got the 2 pairs glued up, I connected them together with the remaining stretchers and actually held them together using a ratchet tie-down. It was time to start tackling finishing, and I turned my attention back to the box portion of the table. Exposed edges of MDF are really thirsty and they absorb paint and finish unevenly, especially when you're spraying. I have a couple of secret tricks that really help. First, I mixed a little bit of water with regular wood glue, and then I brushed it onto the MDF surface, paying careful attention to cover the exposed edges. Once that was dry, then I moved on to primer, which is my second tip. If you haven't made friends with shellac, now's the time to do it. It's awesome stuff. Shellac can cover stains and seal just about any type of surface. I sprayed 1 coat of a shellac-based primer to seal the MDF even more to get it ready for paint. I then sprayed 3 coats of a semi-gloss white enamel. For the poplar base, I sprayed 3 coats of a satin lacquer, which happens to be absolutely my finish of choice. The next day, when everything was dry, I could begin to assemble the table. You liking what you see? Make sure to hit that like button. And while you're at it, subscribe to my channel. I placed the box on top of the base and allowed about a 1/2 inch overhang on all 4 sides. To attach the box to the base, I pre-drilled through the inside of the box and into the top of the legs. I also countersunk the top of the holes. I then drove 3-inch screws, securing everything together. At this point, I actually sat on the table and I realized I had made a mistake in the design. The open side of the lower part of the table base really needed something else, another leg to support it. Since it wouldn't be easily seen, I cut a scrap piece of wood at the same 8 1/4 inch, then placed it about 8 inches in from the open side of the table. I pre-drilled and held it in place as well with 3-inch screws. The extra leg will help hold more weight and prevent sagging over time. The last thing to do was to add the 4-inch foam mattress. I'll leave a link in the description box of the exact mattress that I bought. I found it on Amazon. I had my husband help me lower the upper section on top, and it was done. I absolutely love how it looks. With the mattress stored inside, it's a pretty simple process when we want to convert it from table to bed. The only thing I will say is that the MDF is a bit heavy, so it probably requires 2 people to open. But if you're opening this for a guest anyways, there's going to be 2 of you, right? Like I said before, I made a few mistakes with the design, which I corrected in the plans. But that being said, this is still way more comfortable than almost any other fold-out bed that I've slept on before. If you like projects that move or transform, you should check out my double-ended flip-top workbench. Or maybe this video as well. Make sure to give this video a thumbs up and subscribe to the Pneumatic Attic channel. Thanks for watching, guys!